Welcome to VINDAL'S concept. Today we are going to be looking at fraction. And most of those questions that people ask in fraction, they say, how do we have things like 1 over 2, 1 over 5, 5 over 7, 3 over 2? What do they actually mean? And today I'm going to use this soap and onion to clear that doubt, to clear such confusion, so that we'll be able to understand them. Okay, let's just get started. Looking at this onion, I'm going to call this onion 1, and they call it a whole. This is a whole. And what people call a whole is just one thing, a complete entity. This is a complete entity. And in terms of fraction, this is 1 over 1. If it is percentage, we'll call it 100%. This is a complete package, which is a whole. Now, if I decide to cut this, I've cut it into 2. As it stands now, how many parts do I have? Remember, fraction means parts. Part of a whole. Now, if as I cut it into 2, if you join it together, it becomes 1. This 1. Now that I have cut it into 2, so I want to refer to this part which I have cut, this one of these parts which I have cut, I will say that the total part includes 2. And because they are now 2, the denominator is going to be 2. So I'm going to have over 2. So if I should talk about 1, then I'm going to have 1 over 2 is the fraction. What am I saying? Let me clear that out. If peradventure I want to prepare any kind of food, I want to prepare any food with this onion, and I decided to use 1 part, and the question will come, what fraction of the onion was used for cooking? What fraction of the onion was used for cooking? That fraction is 1 over 2. Now, imagine when I go further to cut this again. They are now 3. So what is the total? What is the denominator? Denominator is going to be 3. Now, out of these 3, I decided to use 1 for cooking. And they asked me, what fraction did I use for cooking? Is going to be 1 over 3 was used for cooking. I mean, the fraction of 1 over 3 was used for cooking. Now, imagine if I decide to use, I decide to use 2 for cooking. What do you think that the fraction will be? Okay, let's finish up. Let me go further to divide this into 4. 4. This is 4 parts of the onion. What is the total fraction? What is the denominator? The denominator is going to be 4 at this point. So I decide to use, out of this 4, I decide to use 2 for cooking. What fraction did I use for cooking? Is going to be 2 over 4, which is something as 1 over 2. Do you understand that? So I may go further to divide this. No matter how number of places I divide it, I will be able to know what fraction we are talking about. The same thing applies to this bar. So, okay, look at remember that the whole onion has been divided into how many places now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, anything you talk about, any fraction you are talking about now for this onion is going to have the denominator of 6, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that 7? No. Yeah, it's going to have a denominator of 7. Oh, sorry. We have this one is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 now. So the 8 is going to be the denominator. So we are going to have things like denominator of x. Now, out of this 8, if I decide to use 3 for cooking, or we are sharing this with friends, I decide to give this 3 to my friend. He said, what fraction was given to my friend? Is going to be 3 over total parts of the fraction. Okay, imagine that I decide to use 7 out of this 8. I use 7 for cooking, and I kept this one. You say, what fraction is left after Mr. Vincent used 7 for cooking? The fraction is going to be 1 over 8. That is left. The fraction that was left is 1 over 8. Remember, I am not talking about this onion as a whole. I'm talking about this onion as a fraction. So you need to be very careful. The number of divisions will take the denominator. Why few of the parts which was used for anything will be the numerator. And if for any reason since we have 8 parts, and they ask you, and then out of these 8 parts, somebody use 5 for cooking, and they ask you out of the what fraction of the onions were used for cooking, and you say that it's 5, it's a blunder, because you have left this 3. We didn't consider this 3. You say that the fraction that was used for cooking is just 5. After all, you didn't even talk about fraction in the first place, and you didn't consider these parts that make up those whole. So that is how fraction is. I may not have time to go using this part. If I also decide to cut this 1, 2, 3, and 4 out of the 5 parts that this bar has, if I use 1 for washing, I'm going to have 1 over total of 5 was used for washing. Thank you.